In 1901, the Los Angeles Herald ran a story about the sadly neglected cemetery in its fair city. The anonymous writer lamented over the mountains of refuge blocking the entrance, and the deplorable state of the monuments, and over the corpse they found partially exposed in its shattered crypt. The story's focus was on the old city cemetery atop Fort Moore Hill. By 1901, it had stopped accepting burials for more than 10 years, and the slow process of relocating the bodies had been going on even longer than that. Today, the old city cemetery and most of the hill it once occupied are distant memories. In fact, these obscure images and a few fading maps are the only tangible evidence it existed at all. So where did it all go? Can a cemetery just disappear? There's an answer for that and more. So come walk with me and discover the remains of LA's Lost City Cemetery. Our grave exploration begins here on Hill Street in Los Angeles, between the Hollywood Freeway and Cesar Chavez Avenue. It's the site of the Fort Moore Pioneer Memorial that marks the place where on July 4, 1847, the Mormon Battalion raised the American flag and held the very first Independence Day celebration in the Pueblo of Los Angeles. The flag raising marked the symbolic end of the California campaign of the Mexican-American War, although armed resistance had stopped 6 months earlier when the U.S. Army entered Los Angeles unopposed. The memorial also celebrates the pioneers who crossed the Great Plains, bringing progress with them in their covered wagons. However, it leaves out those who were here before, and seems to suggest that the construction of Fort Moore upon this hill was the genesis of it all. By 1853, the fort was decommissioned and abandoned. However, a few artifacts like these cannon and the old flagpole remained. The name stuck as well, and it didn't take long for the city and its residents to find other uses for Fort Moore Hill. A high school, a courthouse, scores of homes, and a graveyard all shared space on the promontory. The first recorded burial on Fort Moore Hill took place in 1853 and continued with very little oversight for another 16 years when the city took over management. By then the graveyard was overcrowded and in decline. Burials on the hill were banned after 1879, which coincided with the opening of Evergreen Cemetery in Boyle Heights. In the early 1950s, excavations of Fort Moore Hill were begun to make way for the 101 freeway through downtown. Many had assumed that the old city cemetery was history, but a few reminders like the bones of this soldier were unearthed. By that time, the bodies, or most of them anyway, were moved by family to cemeteries throughout LA County. For others, whose families had moved on, a special place was set aside that gives us a small glimpse of what used to be. Rosedale Cemetery opened its gates in 1884, and in the following years it became one of the premier burial grounds in the city. Patterned after the rural cemetery design, it features many grand monuments and mausoleums that are true works of art. Throughout its expansive grounds, you will find people of all stripes. People from the world of politics and big business are here, and even a few unexpected personalities like Maria Rasputin, the daughter of the Russian mystic who is at the center of the downfall of Tsar Nicholas's reign. From its founding, Rosedale had a true open-door policy. They provided a place of rest to people of all races when others wouldn't. Such is the case of actress Hattie McDaniel, who won the Academy Award for her portrayal of Mammy in Gone with the Wind. She was buried here after being turned away by Hollywood Forever Cemetery because of her skin color. Rosedale features reserves for veterans of the Civil War and the Spanish-American War. And in a nearby stand of pine trees, you will find a simple marker placed in honor of the Old City Cemetery. Beyond it are headstones of gleaming white marble that stand out from the others. Most of them were placed here in 1913 as part of the final cleanup on Fort Moore Hill. Amazingly, some of the bodies arrived here as late as 2008 and 2011. Two of the graves are for men who came here in 1847 as part of the invading forces during the Mexican-American War. Jesse Hunter, who died in 1877, was a member of the Mormon battalion sent to California by Brigham Young in 47. For a while he served as an Indian agent before starting a business making bricks. Nearby is Seth Lount, former member of Company I of the New York Volunteers. He was present at the flag raising during the first Independence Day celebration depicted on the Fort Moore Hill Memorial. The stone for William S. Manning, who raised cattle and worked as a clerk for his father, does not mark a grave. When he died in 1868, his body was sent home to Massachusetts for burial. This stone was erected in Los Angeles as a remembrance for a dear friend. More transfers from the Old City Cemetery can be found in other parts of Rosedale. This broken headstone belongs to Harvey Isaac Parker, a Baptist minister from Vermont. He is credited with establishing schools and churches across the Southwest and California. He died of typhoid fever at the age of 72. Thomas Farnsworth was the manager of the Oxford Hotel in the San Diego resort town of Coronado. He was on duty the night of February 1, 1888, when a fight erupted between two men. Farnsworth was killed trying to break it up. His epitaph is a reminder of that tragic event. Charles Howard was the son of a congressman and a promising attorney, but he had a hot temper and he never let go of a grudge. When he was killed in a shootout at the Lafayette Hotel, all anyone who knew him could say was that they saw it coming. His headstone is interesting in the fact that we can see it as it is now in Rosedale, and we can see it in this old photograph taken at the Old City Cemetery when it was new. These marble remnants have little meaning to the world outside of the cemetery. With each passing year, the wind and rain and sun erases a little bit more of them. The people and the era they lived in have faded from memory, so that they hardly seem real at all. But even though their souls have taken flight, every so often their stories come down to us, and they live again. Thank you for watching, and be sure to subscribe to my channel today for more grave explorations.